This is why you should never leave the table when you're on a blind date. One of my best friends and I worked at the same restaurant. When I came in later that day for my shift, she told me a crazy story. She said that her first table were this guy and this girl, and she could tell they were on a first date. The girl was nervous, so she ordered a glass of wine. As far as she knew, the date seemed to be going well, and the girl got up to go to the bathroom. Right when my friend was about to come over and bring the silverware, she saw him put something in her wine. My friend, obviously terrified and freaking out, let our manager know, who then let the police know, and ran into the bathroom to tell her what was going on. The girl ended up staying in the bathroom until the police came, arrested him, and escorted him out of the building. It was noon on a Tuesday. You don't think you're going to be drugged at noon on a Tuesday.
So this is a story time about how I became best friends with the girl that my boyfriend cheated on me with. So when I met this guy, we'll call him Bronson, there was an immediate attraction. He was a Sagittarius, so he was super charming, life of the party, and it didn't take long for us to start talking. Well, it turned out he wasn't totally honest with me, and he had a girlfriend. So I cut him off and didn't think twice about it. About a year later, though, he came back into my life. He reached out after his breakup with his girlfriend, and he asked if we could give things a real chance. Knowing the connection that we had, I said yes. And things were almost too perfect. We were taking cute photos for Instagram together. It didn't take long for him to move in. And we spent so much time together. He even talked about marriage with me in front of his mom. So it felt like things were going pretty smoothly. Until one night we were going to bed, his phone started blowing up. I grabbed it and it was a notification from a guy named Brad, which I thought was super weird. The texts were asking where he was and what he was doing. And eventually I just decided to pick up the phone. And it was a girl on the other end. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Insta.
Here's something fun. When you're in a long-term relationship, you'll often find yourself doing this thing with your partner where you'll say, when we have kids, I hope they have this trait of yours. And today my husband was like, I hope our kids will be as resilient and determined as you. When I was 11 years old, I got in a fight with my mum when she was picking me up from school, and I was being so rude that she wanted to teach me a lesson and scare me a little bit. So she said, you can find your own way home. Left me outside of my classroom, got in her car and drove off. Now, realistically, she was just doing the block and was going to come back and pick me up, hoping that I would be apologetic. But I wasn't. I was very stubborn and was like, I can find my own way home. And I decided to run home. I, in fact, sprinted from the school grounds and ran into a close family friend who offered to give me a lift, which I accepted, and I got home by my own means. Now, my mum did do the block and not only came back to me not being where she left me, but to one of my friends saying, yeah, I saw her get in the car with some weird guy. Imagining my mum's soul leaving her body that day is enough for me to not ever want kids, let alone kids like me.
Storytime of how my boyfriend ended up being my stepdad. So I was dating this kid, and me and this kid had like the best relationship. He was 19 and I was 17, and I mean we were literally always together. And my mom would always call him hot and stuff like that, but you know, I thought that's just what moms do, and I didn't think of it in that type of way. So one day my boyfriend got mad at me, and he was like, I'm gonna F your mom, become your stepdad, and boss you around if you keep up that attitude. And I mean, who would think that he's gonna actually try to do that? And I said, I would like to see you try. But again, we were just in a little argument, so about a month or two goes on, and I find messages from my boyfriend to my mom and vice versa. They were like sexting, and I saw things I did not want to see from my mother. So I went to go confront both of them, and I confronted my mom first, and she wouldn't tell me nothing, she just told me to get out of her face. Oh, but my boyfriend told me they have been hooking up. But he told me I was overreacting because it's just my mom. Oh, just wait till you find out what happens next. I'm running out of time with part 2.
Part 1 of how I stole my boyfriend's side chick. My boyfriend Zach and I decided to check out a new restaurant in town for date night. We got in his car and started to head out. He usually has better cell coverage than me, so we were using the navigation on his phone to get to the new spot. I noticed his buddy from work, Matt, was texting him as usual. However, this time I noticed the heart emojis out of the corner of my eye at the top of the screen from Matt, which I thought was weird. I started to think about it, and Matt would always text pretty late at night, and my boyfriend always seemed really happy when texting him. I played it off like I was going to look for a faster route, picked up his phone, and quickly copied down the number. When we got to the restaurant, I started paying attention and noticed Zach texting throughout our date. The next day, I called the number and a girl named Jessica answered. He saved her number under Matt and told me he was a buddy from work for months. We started talking and she told me that she had no idea that he had a girlfriend. She also told me that they met on Tinder and they've been talking for a while. She was really honest and cool about it, and she was just as mad as I was. We decided to meet up and talk some more about what we were going to do to get back at him. This is when things got interesting.
Be careful on who you decide to meet up with on a dating app because you might just end up on a date with a narcissist. When I was in Denver, I ended up matching with a really hot 39-year-old who also happened to be a lawyer. I recently called off an engagement, so casually dating other people was kinda in the books for me. Before meeting him, I made sure I took all the usual precautions. We made it very, very clear what our boundaries were and said that there was no expectations. So like either of us could leave after a drink and it would be totally fine. Also, we made sure to FaceTime and he seemed super sweet, totally normal. However, the second we sat down, it seemed like he was on drugs. He would literally talk a million miles an hour about himself and wouldn't let me get a breath in. And the stuff he was bringing up was just odd. Like he even included that he broke off an engagement too. Hold on to that thought. 2 drinks in, this man leans over and says, I've been diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenic disorder, but I didn't want to talk about it over text. Because I don't know a whole lot about those mental disorders, I felt a little uncomfy. I also didn't feel like that was a first date topic. Then he literally starts joking about murdering me and states that he would use my dead body for Face ID to text my friend that I'm safe so the timing is off for the investigation. Like for part 2. Make sure you always verify who randomly adds you on Snapchat or you might accidentally send a nude to your substitute teacher. We're gonna call this guy James because that's his real name. And I got a notification one day that James had added me on Snapchat. I guess he added me in the section where you can find suggested friends, but I immediately recognized his name. Even though I was a lot younger, he had went to my high school prior and I had even watched him in a play. I was studying drama at the time and it was just at a local theater. But it didn't take long after James added me for his Bitmoji to start popping up. So eventually I decided to answer his chats. And yes, this man was super attractive, but we really bonded over theater for a couple of days, and then he randomly asked me for nudes. I, not being okay with that, politely declined. And then I straight up got ghosted. And this cycle continued to happen about 3 or 4 times. He talked to me for a few days, bond, and then asked me for a nude or for me to come over to his house. I would decline and then get ghosted again. Weeks later, the cycle happened again, and this time I gave in. I sent him a half nude and he didn't screenshot it, so I thought we were in the clear. After that, he sent a video of himself, and then I didn't hear from him for weeks. That was until I walked into my drama class.
This is why you should think twice before getting put to sleep at the dentist. I always had bad teeth growing up. When I was younger, I would stay up late eating candy and drinking soda without a care in the world. A few years later, my teeth needed some serious work. My mom didn't make a lot of money and also didn't care too much, so I never got them fixed as a kid. When I was 18, I got a job and made it a priority to fix my teeth with the money I earned. I did some research online for an affordable dentist and found one that would take my job subpar insurance. When I arrived for my first visit, I immediately noticed the office was worn down and old. From the moment I got there, something didn't feel right, but I chalked it up to being nervous because I was scared to see what the dentist had to say. I also couldn't help thinking about the potential pain of getting my teeth fixed. After the dentist made his initial assessment, I noticed he kept putting his hand on my shoulder as he was talking to me, which made me a little uncomfortable. He said I needed serious work done and advised me to be put to sleep to make it pain-free and easy, to which I agreed. I came in about a week later and was put to sleep while he worked on my teeth. I was pretty groggy when I woke up, but I noticed pretty quickly that something was wrong. I was terrified to realize that my bra was lifted up on one side of my chest. My experience only got worse from here. This is why you should be careful doing private events as a stripper. I worked as a dancer for a few years. Most nights I worked at the club, but sometimes I did private events to make some extra money. I always took one of the bouncers that I knew from the club as my bodyguard and gave him a cut of what I made. I also only agreed to small events with a max of 10 to 15 people. One day a guy called me and booked me for a small birthday party for his brother. I explained the rules. No touching or grabbing, nothing sexual would be happening, and I only do what I'm comfortable with, to which he said he understood. I picked up my bouncer friend Tank and headed out to the event. When we arrived, we immediately noticed it was a huge party of at least 60 to 70 people, all of them being men. Tank asked me if I was still comfortable dancing for the party, and I agreed since we were already there. The group of men were really loud when I walked in, and they were extremely intoxicated, which was the first red flag. A few guys instantly started touching me, and Tank lightly pushed them away, telling them no touching and that the show hasn't started yet. While we were walking to the bathroom to change, another guy grabbed my butt. Tank pushed him off and started arguing with him. At this point, we should have left, and if I knew what was about to go down, we would have.
You guys are not even going to believe it when I say that when I was 15, I almost became a stepmom. Yes, we did skip a few chapters, so let's start from the beginning of the book. Back in the day, in middle school, there was this new bad boy in town. And for the purpose of the story, his name will be Dean. So Dean was a little bit older, but he would date some of the middle school girls. A little sus, I know, but even beyond this man had a bad reputation. And I did my best to stay away from guys like him. That was until the second quarter of my sophomore year in high school happened. And while my mom and I were walking around Walmart looking for a pair of jeans, we ran into Dean's mom. Well, our mom started talking and bonded really well. And that's when his mom suggested that we would be a really cute couple. She talked about how much he's changed, so I went ahead and added him on Snap. And the insane thing is that we actually started having really good conversation. Like deep existential ones. But one night I was bored and started to creep on his Instagram account. And I came across a gender reveal photo. This man had a whole son on the way. And I accidentally liked the photo, and that's when I got a text from Dean saying, "Go ahead, ask me."
To anyone who gets a period, this video is for us. When I was in middle school, I really appreciated this teacher who would let the girls go to the bathroom whenever we wanted. And the guys would complain that they had to wait 20 minutes at least after lunch so that they could use the restroom. And the teacher would always remind them, you guys are boys and these are young ladies and they don't always have to just relieve themselves in the restroom. And I didn't even realize that that was just basic human decency for people who have periods until I got to high school. When I was a junior in high school, I was sitting in class and I felt like I was bleeding. And so I told my teacher that I had to use the restroom, and he told me I couldn't go because it was the first 15 minutes of class. And I told him it's an emergency. I really have to use the restroom. And he said, you should have thought about that at lunch. And because I'm not going to sit here and bleed through my pants, I was like, I'm menstruating really loud in front of the whole class. And he was shocked and so uncomfortable. He started doing that thing where he tries to laugh like, and all my 20 years of teaching, no one has ever told me that. And I just sat there and wondered how many girls before me had to sit in their own blood.